Welcome to Winning Inside, the show where we follow the journey from feeling defeated to winning. Here are your hosts, Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman.
Hello, amazing people. Welcome to the Winning Inside podcast, where we discuss real issues, insights, and solutions with each other and guests to help you thrive in your day-to-day lives. We know life happens, and we can choose to be a spectator or a participant.
These conversations and stories are about the participants, the ones who made the choice to do the inner work and found a way to keep moving forward.
Well, hello, everybody. We are back again, and today we have with us another amazing guest. It is the Amanda Bedell, owner and founder of BCC Business Consulting. Hey, Amanda.
Hey, thank you. And that introduction, I thought, oh, wow, doing the inner work, that really resonated with me.
That's where it starts. And you know this is where it starts. What you work on within is what shows and manifests itself without, on the outside, within, without. So I think that's actually good work. And that's what we do. But I know for a fact, you know all about this kind of inner work. That's why it resonates with you, because this is what you do. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a common theme in my life around pushing through barriers. Mm-hmm. Or continuously looking at the next step, even when I'm confronted with something that feels like it's too big.
So you are comfortable walking in that discomfort zone, as we'll call it.
Oh, yeah. And really, if it's something that I want, I hold on to that vision like there's no tomorrow. It can come to a detriment, and it has. Okay. So there's some common themes around that. And even when I have that whisper from the universe that's saying it's time to move on, loosen that grip, it takes me a little while to actually listen to it. So
interesting how what we consider a strength or a superpower can sometimes be a limiting factor as well. We have to learn to discern and use judgment as to when to manage that. But that's the beauty of life, I would say. That's the beauty of life. So it's actually pretty cool. Did you know you are the first lady we've had on our show?
No.
We've had a few guys. So you are actually the first lady, and we have to celebrate that because you are the first, which is pretty awesome in and of itself. And I love it because this is Women's History Month. But then again, as far as Cheddy is concerned, just like Black History Month and every other history month, it should be every bloody day, if that's your life. But that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. So you live women's history every day of your life. So tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do.
I think I agree with that too. We bring with us the information and deep knowledge from those that come before us. So I'm honored to be here and where I am now. So I began life in northern Minnesota.
Don't you know?
Don't you know? Oh yeah, don't you know? Don't get me started, because the minute you tell me to, I got it. I got the accent.
People always talk about my accent, but I tell you, when I hear somebody from Minnesota, I get a little excited. Yes, Minnesota. That's how you say
Minnesota?
Minnesota. Yeah. That's how you say that. But I love it. I love the accent. It's like, oh my gosh, say it again. Yes. Let me calm down, because usually I'm the one that's the subject of that. So now it's good to actually do it to somebody else.
Yeah, isn't it great? Yeah, the minute you tell me to turn it on, I can, but I do work on hiding it in my West Coast life. But I started life in Minnesota. I grew up there, went to college there, and then headed to the West Coast for my professional life. So I've been on the West Coast for 18 plus years now.
Good deal.
And I started my career here and really feel as though this is home. I just bought my first home. Speaking of homes.
Congratulations.
Yes, I've been in it for 1 month. So it's all brand new. I've got to tell you that I attempted to hang a curtain rod the other day. After 4 trips to Lowe's and speaking to my friend, she is a Southern Black woman who told me, get out of Lowe's, Amanda. You are outside of your genius zone. You go and download TaskRabbit. She told me to get out of Lowe's and download TaskRabbit.
That's a good friend. That is a good friend right there.
You are outside of your genius zone. I just love it.
I like the way she said that.
Called me out on it and just said, you need to be hiring that out, because 7 holes later and the thing is still not.
I would help if I could, but you never want me to screw anything into a wall. I'll work on a car all day, but if it's a house, I have a phobia against like doing something in a house and all of a sudden a wall falling down. Like, I don't know. It's irrational. I get it because I know I was born with 2 fears and that wasn't one of them. But I have adopted and nurtured that fear and do not like doing any work in the house because I'm afraid I'm going to break something. So I get it. Get it. Not my space. Not my space. So now on the business side, you've had a business or two, haven't you? Beyond this.
Yeah. So I started a gluten-free bakery in Seattle, Washington in 2012. Launched it at a farmer's market locally there, grew it to a brick and mortar. We had a wholesale manufacturing facility in the back. And so we employed 15 people. And that is a big failure of mine with a capital F. And so I kind of like telling the story now, because it really is something that I think entrepreneurs and business owners need to think about when we face those just mistakes, or if we make a decision that ends up becoming a betrayal.
Well, yeah. And that's actually good, because you can look at failures in different ways, but a failure can be devastating, a stop point, or it can be a lesson point, a learning point, a point to pivot or grow. And if you can learn the lessons from that, usually what's on the other side of that is greater than what was before it. So it's actually, it's good that you have actually digested what you called a big failure with a capital F, because it probably was a huge platform and foundation for where you are now today. So fail on.
Yes, taking the wisdom from those lessons and just really honing in the beauty, because failure isn't death. It's the beginning of something that can become really beautiful, the seeds, if you will. I've also used the analogy of garbage and it becoming compost. So you taking your garbage and turning it into compost. I learned that from a yoga instructor a couple months ago, that she said that. And I'm like, oh, I'm keeping that one. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Can you tell us a little bit more? I mean, you used a pretty significant word there, betrayal. So failure and betrayal. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that evolution looked like from starting really grassroots farmers markets and then having 15 employees? That's pretty significant. Were you guys packaging your goods? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, to start with the first part of the question, using that big word of betrayal, I see it more as self-betrayal, and that there was a series of self-betrayals that happened through the course of 6 years. And that was the whole business cycle for me in that bakery, from launch to sell. It was 6 years. So the reason why I tell that story now, and it's for 3 reasons in particular. One is around having a financial runway as a business owner. The other one is to focus on the who rather than the how. And the last is that we really need business peer groups and an advisory. So a trusted mentor or a business coach.
Absolutely. I love that. And this is learning through, like Cheddy loves to speak to this, which is learning through our failures, but then turning around and offering those same lessons, that wisdom to other individuals as well. So is there, from that time, and you spoke of financial runway, I'd love to go into those 3 learning points, the financial runway, the who versus the how, and then the trusted advisory or coach, and then how you're now applying that in your life.
Yeah. So I tell a story of really understanding what I had gotten myself into on an August day in 2018, where I wrote on my Facebook page this quote: "In the review mirror of life, I will be able to look back on this time and see these experiences helped me receive my heart's desire with grace and in perfect ways. 4 months after I posted that on Facebook, my life changed forever. And I had decided to sell that bakery business. But the reason why I share that now is because I'm sitting in a brand new hybrid Ioniq, staring at a review mirror and saying to the reflection in that mirror that you are okay and that I made it to the other side.
That's amazing. That is such a beautiful quote.
Thank you. Yeah. And I wrote it at the time when I had also maxed out 4 credit cards and had a 0 balance in my 401k.
Wow.
So really what that means is I didn't have a financial runway or an abort plan.
You were all in.
I was all in. Mm-hmm.
That's powerful. It's a powerful place to be. It requires a lot of courage to be there because you're at the point where you can't half do it at that point because you are all chips in. This is it. And in the Marine Corps, we say do or die. I use that a lot, but that's, you have a choice. It's, make it work or be consumed. That's it. That's a high level motivator because the option or the alternative is really total and dismal failure or death or some kind of a stop point that is just going to be devastating. And weathering that storm is not easy. And people need to know because there are people in the throes of that right now that need to hear how you got through that because that was 2019, 2018 in that area. Well, it's 2022. So what you doing now?
Well, with my clients, I work with them on taking a salary. If they aren't already, I don't care if it's 0.001% of gross. We are opening up an account that's titled Owner's Draw and depositing those funds each month.
Nice.
We can't feel guilty about taking money from our business. If you do, then you've got animosity towards all those hours that you're working, potentially those employees you're trying to pay. It turns into a lot more that really on the inside, even if you're not thinking that actively, it's kind of going around in the background of your mind.
Funny how what we say and what we do sometimes aren't the same as the subconscious message we're having. And money I think of it as an energy source. And where you focus your energy, a lot of times that's where things happen, or where you don't focus your energy. So if you're not providing that financial energy to yourself, are you saying that you're not valued? Are you saying it's not important? What are you telling yourself and why? And how is what you're telling yourself stifling you in your business? How is it affecting your performance? And it's that right there is a Georgia. When you said that, I was like, that's a great concept. I mean, it really is because you said 0.001. I was like, but that's not a lot. It's not about the amount. It's the action and the mindset. I am valued. Therefore, I show that I am valued by employing myself or by paying myself because I am a person of value. That can change. Wow, I always talk about mindset, and that is like a mindset shift off the bat. It really is. And I know, Michelle, you have some things to say on that because that's just how your mind works. You understand the power of investing in yourself and working on yourself and valuing yourself. You just get that.
Yeah. Well, no, I think from my standpoint, it's a little bit different, but it's more of creating a habit of it too, right? So you're getting in the habit of it, of ensuring that you are going to continue down this path. Cheddy, if you want to, define it as valuing your time and creating the mindset around it. Yes, but it's a non-negotiable. You are earning from this business. So if you go in with that mindset, and I love that you focus on that. I love that you coach your clients towards that. Because you're absolutely right, particularly in startups, we oftentimes just continue to reinvest any funds that we acquire, any sales right back into the business. And even, 0.001, we're talking about negligible funds, right? So you're not necessarily going home and popping open a bottle of champagne, but it's just the non-negotiable that their funds are always flowing into my draw, period.
Yeah. And it also inserts us into the income statement. I mean, for those that are analytical, seeing that line item, it provides a way of scaling. I really like to use the quote from James Clear here from Atomic Habits: raise the level. We cannot rise to the level of our goals. We rise to the level of our systems. So we can't optimize a system until it's in effect.
Yes.
Wow.
Right? I recently read that and I love it.
So good.
It's I have the audiobook and the real book. Like I was just like, give it all to me. How can I learn one little new nugget from like the audiobook versus the, the hardbound copy? Like I just had to have like all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. I love that. And it's funny because I say the same thing about mindset. You can't really outgrow your mindset. It's very similar to the system because your mind is a system, the way it works, the way it processes information, and how it enables you to do certain things. So those things are congruent and in line. And wow, I can just imagine your clients walking in, feeling despondent, just lost, you're just totally in this space of despair. And then you come in with those minor changes. It's kind of hard to not be all in when you're thinking in that way. You know what? I need to pay myself. Whoa. So this is important. So this is not fair. I need to pay myself. But that means I need to pay myself every week. It as you're saying it, it's making me think differently about the business. It really is. It's a major shift. It really is a major shift. And wow. No, go ahead, please.
Well, I was going to say too, and that you own that darn business. It doesn't own you. Right?
That's a mindset too. I mean, really, it's a mindset. And some people are in business and it's just like they're working a job, just not getting paid for it. And other people are in business and they run it as such, and they can fund their lifestyle, they can fund their dreams off of that business. And a lot of times that's mindset, and it requires a little shift. But sometimes to get that shift, you need a wayfarer, you need a guide, you need a Sherpa, you need a coach, a trusted advisor. You need to see people who have done it. But you're doing that work now.
And I think that's really important to just glean and wrap that section up. What is that small shifts make a really big difference. So even if you're doing that 0.001 at the beginning, at least you're creating that mind pathway and creating a habit that's rewarding to you, like you were saying around the mindset shift. And you can improve from that. You can improve from there. Mm-hmm.
That's a paradigm shifter right there. It really is. Small shifts make a big difference.
Yes.
I think that is in so many areas. I used to like shooting weapons, and believe me, one little click on a weapon can change the path of a round by so much at its destination. And it seems minor on this end, but how is that amplified over time? And you just have amplified somebody's efforts and results, and because they can see that bank account at some point, they can see that down the road. And like, I'm so glad I did this. Imagine in 10 years when they do that, and then they're now mentoring other business owners to do the same, because the work you do is expansive. And if there's a group of people and you've told one to do that and it works, they're going to tell others. So just that growth, and this, the fact that Amanda gets to share that knowledge based on her own experiences that you may have seen as a failure, that is now benefiting other businesses in the community and around the nation, because I know you're nationwide. So soon to be global.
For me, it's about ensuring that passion fuels the world. I think that, I know it may seem Pollyanna to people to say that maybe, and a little naive, but I really feel that we would have a really different world if we could live within our passion or our purpose. There are people who love to fix things and they would be great mechanics, and there are still within the world running as it is people who can fill jobs, but I do feel that fueling the passion is, and living a sustainable life through that passion is my life purpose. And as much as I can do to take the, quote unquote failures that I've experienced through building this bakery business and spread the knowledge on how you can be not just successful, but really thrive
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that. That's the concept of thriving holistically as an individual, almost through the expression in your business. Can you share with us a little bit? Was there a moment in time, or was this an evolution where you connected with this concept of passion?
I was a part of a leadership group in, I want to say it was 2016 or 2017, where we did series of exercises around how we show up in the world. And purposeful living was a piece of that. And that's where I really latched on to this fueling passion. And I saw it more when, I was in the thick of the bakery business when I was going through this program. So fueling passion to me meant eating and how I could use food to create passion within my employee, and really building them a runway towards the rest of their lives. I tell people about this experience. So my clients who have employees, we work with taking the elephant out of the room and thinking that someone is going to be with us forever, and really building a roadmap to seeing how they can be successful in the work. How can we look at the work that they're doing in a year from now and say that this was a successful move for them or a successful employment for them? So does that mean, what does it look like professionally? And then what does it look like personally? Do you need to get into an apartment? Do you need to buy a car? Do you want to get out of debt? There's a lot of talk. I think I saw Gordon Ramsay really pushing this right now about business owners getting their staff out of debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey.
Oh, Dave. Yes. Sorry.
I'm just thinking the Gordon Ramsay, because you're probably talking about food, is the other guy who'd probably say something totally different.
Yes, I do the same thing. I totally do. I totally, I didn't understand what you said either, Cheddy. And I was like, huh? Because I was following right along with you. I was like,
you saw who I was talking about. Yeah, totally.
Okay, so
because
for me,
I do the same thing.
I've visualized, Mr. Gordon, because I met him in Paris one time, and he just had a look, and it's like, please don't blow my spot up. Don't tell anybody who I am. And I was like, I won't. Right. Like, thank you.
No, the other one.
The nicer one, the kind of gentler one.
Oh, I don't know that he is. He is kind.
Seems a little nicer.
I wanted to acknowledge you for that, because what you're offering your clients is to create this like really genuine connection with their employees. And it is the foundation of trust, and it's the foundation of honesty with each employee, no matter if they have a title or, an executive title or whatever it is. It's just the truth and the honesty that, like, hey, we're probably not going to be together forever. And that's totally fine. But when they're truly living into, their goals, and I'm here to support you through that, they're going to show up to work knowing that, hey, my boss really has my back. My boss really has my best interest in mind. And they're not just their output, their performance, it is to go back to that, like, thriving holistically within whatever job or business or career that you have in the moment. Like, how can you really support that individual in thriving? And that's an amazing legacy to leave behind, is to create this level of connection between business owners and employees. Bravo.
Now.
Thank you. And, I call them alumni because they really are. And I'm still in touch with a lot of them. And I'd love to say, like, wow, I just came up with that in the moment, but really each step of the way over those 6 years, as we grew from 0 employees up to 15, it really was because we were stretched, and each layer of what became a really great employee retention strategy came from out of a necessity. And the fact that we really didn't have any funding for a managerial level. So I needed people to be adults. When they came into the workplace, I needed them to do conflict resolution on their own. I needed them to have camaraderie. I needed them to have my back and know that I had theirs. So and that all started in the interview process, knowing that, hey, there's no managers here, that I really need you to follow, courageous conversations is one thing that I teach people. And what that means is just how you work on conflict in the workplace in a way that is less emotional and more data driven.
Absolutely. Speaking to the facts versus the thoughts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
So going into the who versus how.
Yeah, that really flows nicely.
It sure does.
So in my bakery business, I did everything. I pulled every shift, just like what I was saying earlier, the camaraderie. That meant that I was there sometimes only leaving for just a few hours to go to sleep. If someone called in sick, I was there. I was rescuing a lot of the time. So if I'm being completely honest with you, I did thrive on that. And I loved supporting my team because they saw me on the ground working with them. I wasn't just some suit hanging out, taking in the money from the business. So I really was working in it. But I'm also a self-identified workaholic. So I lean towards these tendencies. And I really work with my clients on how can you focus on who do you need around you? And then they focus on the what or the how.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
That. It's very people centric. And it's funny that you do this because now the trend is people are realizing we need to be more people centric. We need to focus on people more. But you've inherently done that. Whereas people are reading books and taking courses and getting coached on how to take care of their people, which seems like it should be a non-event. Like it should be like, duh, yeah, that's step one. But for many companies, it's not. And people aren't valued as a resource, as a valued resource. Money is, assets are, inventory is, but human capital
is.
The output absolutely is.
Yeah.
But what affects all of that? The human capital, the human resource, the humans that are actually doing the work. And we've devalued them for so long that at some point they realize, I'm leaving. And the old threat of leaving was, well, how are you going to survive? I'll figure it out. That changed a lot for people. People are going to jobs where they are aligned and valued, feel valued. And that's a change. And I think more companies need to do what you've already done, Amanda, and that's focus on the employee in a sincere, authentic, honest way. Mm-hmm. And you get the most results. It seems to me like simple math, like take care of your people, they'll take care of you and make you famous. But if you don't, they're going to leave and you're going to have people who work and do only what you tell them to do. That requires a lot more management. That just requires a lot more management to do that.
So I wanted to jump in on that one because you brought it right perfectly into this space, which is that I'm guessing that, and what you may find is that sometimes people might come to you and say, how can I get more out of my employees? Like, how can I improve my business? But what you end up managing is them. They think they need to manage maybe difficult employees or help fix employees, but it's like, actually, I think it's a difficult manager person situation. So it's almost like you secret agent. Like Cheddy loves to use the phrase secret agent. You secret agent and you're just like, I'm actually managing you. Surprise.
I really do love going into businesses who are like, I just don't understand why this person can't do this job. And I'm like, well, do they have expectations and understanding of what their job is?
Well, no. But they
do they feel supported in the learning curve and the process here?
Mm-hmm.
No. Do they have standard operating procedures? No.
Oh. Yeah.
Those will sound like leadership issues.
Yeah. and again, I just do want to point out to the people that are listening, this isn't me just coming up like, oh, bam, a done deal, and that I arrived done at this place of building in a culture of retention. It was through pure necessity. In Seattle specifically, we hit the $15 minimum wage years ago. So I think it started to come into effect maybe 2017, if I'm remembering correctly. And even though we had a runway, the city had given us a runway for small businesses to get up to 15, the employment pool still dried up the minute bigger businesses started offering 15 as their floor. So I went from having Craigslist ads being answered, and I may have just dated myself. Yes, Craigslist, and poached. I had people coming in through those funnels before, and then right after, no one.
Wow.
So it really was that I had to work on the inside. So the inside showed up on the outside enough where people came into the bakery and they heard bursts of laughter in the background. I tell a story about, after we had 15 employees, I felt like it was really important for us to look at our company values because I had created them in a void before I had even really started the business. And what I found out, not only was I pretty much on par, but I found out that through an exercise of having everyone create these values with us, they self-selected one that I hadn't thought of before. And it was fun.
Yes.
Wow.
I literally teared up.
Aww.
And it was, 15 people, not maybe different words, but we came up with that one of the values was fun. And how cool is that? We started also a second chance, fair chance employment opportunities at the bakery. So I was recruiting from people who were exiting the correctional facilities and those that were being trained by nonprofits in the area that came from barriers to employment. So whether that be homelessness, people with varying disabilities, because in my workplace, there were this type of person varies in strength as well. And as long as you don't have, I don't recommend this for every single company, but for mine, I could lower the barrier of employment because we didn't have, we didn't have anything to really. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that you created that space and you made that commitment and provided that opportunity. And you saw it as an opportunity due to the nature of your business. And the fact that you address it as they bring their individual strengths, and they truly, truly do. It's just, I don't know, Cheddy, to use Cheddy's word, and I refer to you a lot, you're amazing. Quite simply put. And you can get bashful if you want, but truly, you were learning, but you were bringing your team along on this journey and allowed them to learn through this entire process too. How many employees get to participate in identifying and updating company values? How many employees, all the employees get the input, And for you to bring in individuals that are oftentimes overlooked in employment or even not allowed to apply due to the nature of their history or background. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you created this space, it feels like a reflection of the community, right? It almost feels like a community business. Mm-hmm. And that is such a powerful place where people feel like they belong. And it almost makes me sad because I'm like, I love bakeries. I would totally go to your bakery.
It is an amazing place. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So
love that.
As far as the third, trusted advisory or coach, this is if I knew then what I know now.
Well, going back to that review mirror. So, I had a trusted business friend. His name was Tim and is Tim. He still is in existence.
His name is still Tim. Okay, Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah. We met at Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, and he had a huge HVAC company on the East Coast and owned it for 25 years. He now has exited that company or is on his way to exiting the company. He graciously led so many conversations with me over the course of likely, I think, close to a year. And we were going back and forth on, should I stay? Should I go? Should I buy her out? What should I do? And it seemed to be very repetitive. And there was one day, and I remember it so vividly because I was sitting at a picnic table in a Seattle park. It was one of those really hot days. And I love the sun. So I'm just sitting there like baking in the sun. And Tim just stopped me in my tracks. And I call it visually shook me when he said, "Why are you fighting so hard for this when you have so much more to do?" And at that point, I didn't think I had anything more to do. I believe the bakery was it. I was fighting, I was sitting there holding on to this vision so tightly. And I didn't see anything more in myself, but he saw more in me. It was really powerful.
Oh,
Incredibly powerful.
Thank you. Because that's...
Yeah. Thank you, Tim.
If it wasn't for that.
Who is still in existence.
Yes. A real person.
He's a real person. Yes. And I will send him this podcast because I
please do.
Haven't talked to him or thanked him as much enough. I never could thank him enough. So,
yeah.
We're on this roller coaster as business owners, or the entrepreneurial roller coaster. It's used. It's even used in your podcast as a description. And when we're in those highs, it's like we can't do anything wrong. It feels so good and it can be really addictive. But then when we're in those lows, just looking at and knowing who is in our corner in those lows. Do you have a business advisory group? Do you have a business advisor or a mentor? There are free people out there, like through organizations like SCORE. But who do you turn to when the decision that you made goes wrong, or you're hitting the same issue over and over and over again? And let me tell you right now, here's a little secret. It's not your significant other.
Oh, God, no.
Because they either A, are sick of hearing it, or B, or B, both, they likely don't understand business, or, friends and family who aren't in business don't have the same level of understanding.
And nor the same level of objectivity that you really require to give you sound advice. It's like the unacknowledged filter. It's like, I know that you can't be unbiased because you have a vested interest in whatever decision I make, whether it's for or against. So probably the best unfollowed advice that we all fail on because we know better, but we still keep doing it, Yeah.
Cheddy and I have this a common business advisor, and he had shared this quote with us that I think is really interesting. And I have my clients think about it is, you can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. Do you remember him saying that?
You've got a million of them, though.
I know. It's so good. It's so good, but it's not mine. Yeah.
You can give him his flowers too.
Well, and when I put on my bakery hat, I was told that people had said, like, get a business consultant. But when I thought about business consulting, those came with dollar signs, and I didn't have any of those, as we have talked about earlier. And then business coaching, I didn't quite understand what coaching was, and it felt a little bit more like therapy. And I did not want to draw that line, and I didn't want to be vulnerable and show the inside of what was really going on in that business, because to me, coaching was going to be something where it was a lot like therapy, and I didn't want to do that.
You weren't prepared?
I did. Well, or was I being defiant in that my bakery was seemingly successful? We did a lot of business out of this smaller base, and we were very popular, but that business wasn't supporting me financially. And then there's a whole little other layer that I'll just sneak in here, but we're not going to dive into it too much. But there's a business partnership here, so that there's more layers of potential challenges. We'll just call them that.
Challenges.
the challenges. But, now that I know what a business coach is, and now I am one, right? Or a consultant, both. I can do stuff in the business, or I can coach people through it, when I partner with executives or entrepreneurs. Really, we're seeing when you've got someone like this on your side, you're able to see all sides of the business. And really, if I were to do the math on, had I gone to a business consultant and weighed those costs versus what the cost was, both financially for me and emotionally, I may have avoided some of those costly landmines in any sense. It's more like, how did the math really work out there?
It's a great objection, though. It's a great response to an objection. And so it's like, oh, it's too expensive, or I can't afford it. You're like, well, if you can't afford it, it means you can't afford not to do it. So you actually have that inbuilt because you live that story. So, I know what you're feeling. I went through the same thing and I did this. And you can actually go through that whole journey, and it's your story. It's what happened. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because you can actually save people a 6-year rough period of learning, which is great. You can learn that way, or you can have an accelerator and learn that stuff a lot quicker. And then 6 years later, you're like so much further ahead than you would have been if you were doing it by yourself with not the right information and guidance, falling in the pitfalls. I mean, you learn when you fall in the pitfalls, but if someone can say, hey, watch out, there's a pothole down the road, you can avoid it. Hey, take this shortcut, you'll get there quicker. And if you take it, you get there quicker. It's like, well, thanks. But if you didn't know, you can always say, in hindsight, I wish I had known. If I had only known this, I would have done that. So you avoid a lot of that. That was my voice. Did you hear it? Mm-hmm. All right. I'm just going to deviate. We always have a voice. Like Michelle and I talk about this voice that we have. And I'll call it stupid man voice. When you're mad at a guy, you give him a voice like this with a deep voice. And if I'm mad at a lady, I give her a squeaky voice like this or something. So we always have these voices for people when we're trying to be somewhat disparaging. Even my daughter has a voice like that. And I was like, really?
A dad voice? Is it a dad voice?
She has a dad voice and it doesn't sound like mine. It sounds more like this. I'm like, okay, thank you, baby. Thanks. So
oh my God.
I know I digress, but that just, when I said that, it just hit me in the head. So.
Yeah. And to your point, we got to have a little bit of fun, right?
Got to.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever we do, wherever we're at, finding the fun is like finding the positive, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to bring it back to you, Amanda. You talked about self-betrayal, and I know you touched on this, but it's such a powerful word, and we talked about it earlier, but in what ways, like to what depth would you say? Because I know you put your head down, you worked in your business and you worked on your business. You felt as though you couldn't quote unquote afford a business consultant or business coach, or didn't want a business coach because you were concerned that it was a little bit too deep, maybe too vulnerable. Mm-hmm. But that conversation about self-betrayal, to what degree did it get to where you were just finally like, oh my God, this is done?
Self-betrayal is a new word for me that I gleaned from speaking with a soul coach. He and I have just started to engage together, and it started, me understanding what I've done to myself started around my 40th birthday. If I'm going to be completely honest about when I started to realize it and where the pain just kind of came to an ultimate halt, I was turning 40 and I am single and I have no children. And I had a failed business, and I was running around Seattle doing marketing and public relations for events, which is what I had done previously to owning the business. And I was feeling as though I was just trying to get money in the bank, and I think there was a series of self-betrayals within that story of staying in dead-end relationships for too long, ignoring the whispers in my head, or ignoring the universal whispers that were pulling me away from the bakery earlier. And, there's all those I should haves. And I'm not really sure how to wrap that up outside of that. There's just that series of self-betrayals that in going back to that theme of just holding on to this vision that isn't necessarily the reality that's staring me in the face. I'm just going to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing.
It feels like when I listen to you and I listen to the entirety of your story, it feels almost like an awakening to these patterns. And now that you're here and you can really reflect back, and you are now leveraging coaches, which I love. Because
but not therapists.
No, not therapists, coaches. I like to say, Cheddy and I like to say, like, he called me on it. He used my words against me.
Welcome.
I love that. I love that.
So we talk about mental health between the two of us quite often offline. And, he's like, okay, so there's something wrong with you. So now what? What are you going to do now? And I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I get to own it. I get to own what this post-awakening, clarity and reflection on my past and my lessons. And if I can look at it with this clarity and look at it from that kind of 10,000 foot view and see the big picture of all the lessons, and if I'm going to bring it back to you, Amanda, all the lessons and all of the, wisdom that you've been able to gather from the bakery, from the partnership, from Tim, from, working your butt off to try to just get money in the bank from all of this. And now you're here and you're able to put it together with your company. And as the founder and owner of this business consulting, to be able to gather all of that together and offer it in a way that, like, not only are you helping these individual business owners, but you're helping them create powerful and impactful businesses for the employees as well. So you're impacting so many more people than just one person, or maybe, and that's not to say that impacting one person is like, I don't want to dismiss that at all, because if that's what we walk away from in this life, then, so be it. And thank you for that too. But what Tim saw in you was this possibility and the capability of bringing all of that to so many more people. So I want to hear from you, like, what are your next steps with this business consulting with your company?
Well, and I think, just to tag along on what you're saying there, it's that big, scary word of failure, or that, self-betrayal. I no longer will accept that. And I've kind of adopted that. Cheddy's heard me say this before, like getting bold and getting brave. But what that really means is that I'm not going to live small anymore. And I want to fail fast. I want to fall flat on my face, because when I do, I kind of like now what happens, what I become. So I've learned that failure isn't necessarily death, but that it's contributing to something really beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the compost.
Well, I love that. I love that. Garbage becomes compost. I
love it.
Really love that, because it's a story that we all go through. Valleys of decision, moments of truth, back being against the wall, where you've got to make a decision, do or die, as I'll call it. It just, what do I do now? Okay, you've got this going on, and what? What next? And you have taken some positive steps, which were introspective at first, had some external factors that some people gave you some great advice. But beyond all of that, you took the step. You let go of something, which is tough. You let go of almost like your baby, your brainchild, your intellectual, your brain trust. You let go of that thing for a greater good, which is scary, because why am I going to give that up? This is what I built this. This is mine, all mine. And you gave that up. And look at your mind, air quotes, now. Your mind is a lot bigger than your previous mind. Who would have thunk that? But, you had a coach, you had a mentor, you had somebody who saw something in you that you may not have seen at the time, but now you're living in what he expected. And I expect that you're going to grow even more. This is just the beginning, because the awakening that you have is going to change so many people. And that's why your tribe is growing at insane rates, because people are like, I understand that story. And you come from such a pure heart, a space of just caring, giving, just offering the best of you. It's only going to expand. And I'm sure you're going to have some team members soon, multiple team members, because it's just, the expansion is there. Your story is real and we love it. And we are so glad to have you on this show. You are definitely living the overcomer story, the hero story, the heroine story, a word that's not used enough anymore. And it is Women's History Month. So we're going to use the heroine story, because I've always loved that word. And then the bloody drug came in and messed up the word. They didn't even spelt the same, but it sounds the same. I know I'm going off. I love that word. So if Amanda, we really want to thank you for your time and respect your time. But I wanted to ask you if there's any way that our listeners can connect with you, what would that be? How can they get in touch with you?
Yes, they can find me on LinkedIn, Amanda Bedell, or on Instagram, I'm at BCC Business Consulting, or with my website, bccbusinessconsulting.com.
Okay, awesome. So you heard it here, bccbusinessconsulting.com, BCC Business Consulting, Amanda Bedell. Amanda Bedell is with 1 D and 2 L's, Bedell. And Amanda is the common spelling. If you spell it any other way, figure that out, okay? There's only one right way to spell Amanda. It's not like other names, like Cheddy. There's only one to spell it too. Never mind. All right. So I'm digressing. I think I'm just excited. This was just an awesome story. What a great way to just, what an amazing time. I really am grateful for this and this time. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say to the people out there that are listening?
I think I'll leave with some parting words, that if you feel as though your decisions had turned out as betrayals, and maybe you're kicking yourself right now, please remember to allow yourself some grace and maybe some time to process, or even go through all 7 stages, or maybe there's 8 of grief, but then sit up straight and place that crown atop your head and live on as the queen that you are.
Love it. Love it. And I'm going to say, or the king that you are, because I'm a guy. But yes,
cool.
Wear that crown, rock it, and own it. So thank you so much, Amanda. This was amazing. Michelle, I love doing this. I enjoy this work. I really do. So today, as I wrap up, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, follow, share, and most importantly, use whatever adds value to your amazing life.
And remember, even if life puts barriers in our way, we are still moving forward. Sign in each Monday for a new episode of Winning Inside.
Thank you for listening to Winning Inside with Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure to click the follow button, rate and review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcast. You can connect with Cheddy and Michelle at winninginside.io. Keep listening. Another episode is coming soon.